Hey, what's up? It's Tricky. So today we're going to continue work on the Zombie Survival FPS, which, by the way, might totally evolve into something else. I've already got some ideas brewing. If you recall the beginning of this series, you know this was never even supposed to be a video game, so there you go. Now, anyway, I like trees and games that involve trees, so let's make some trees with the Unity Tree Creator. The version of me who's right now recording the audio for this clip is actually from slightly in the future, and I happen to know that I end up modeling my own trees later, but the Unity Tree Creator is pretty sweet, so let's check it out. We'll generate a trunk and then pick out a random seed that we like. I'm going to go for a birch tree, so I'll turn this crinkliness nearly all the way down for a nice straight trunk. Now I'll add some branches and adjust their angles. Now here we can add our first layer of leaves. I'll drag in this image of a birch leaf, and just like the branches, we can adjust frequency, size, and distribution. I'll then add another layer of branches, add two more layers of leaves, one with bunches of leaves like before, and the other one with small individual leaves. And we can just adjust those until we feel satisfied with the outcome. If we now run our script, we see a lovely tree, but it's right now just a mesh, meaning we can walk right through it. We could add a mesh collider, and that would appear to do the trick. But watch what happens if we try to distribute a bunch of trees using Unity's tree painting tool. The mesh collider doesn't carry over. So let's make a more basic collider, just a capsule at the base of the trunk, because that's all we're going to interact with anyway. And now the collider carries over onto our painted trees. You may notice I've been holding an axe, as I plan to be able to chop down trees. Let's make some simple logs out of a few cylinders and a birch texture, and add a capsule collider. We'll add a script to the axe so that when the axe collides with the tree disappears and is replaced by 4 logs stacked on top of each other, which will then tumble over. Let's try it out. That looks pretty good. There's a slight jump in texture when the tree gets replaced with the logs, but that can be fixed later. Now while the capsule collider we made from the tree carried over when we painted the trees, any script we attach to the tree certainly doesn't carry over. The tree will also no longer be a game object, it would be something called a tree instance, and so our other scripts don't really work with it properly, and in any case we need a new solution. And I decided to create an invisible tree that I can paint onto the terrain. You can't see it or interact with it, it just has a position and rotation. We can then create a script that searches through the position of each invisible tree and have it place an instance of our actual desired tree at that exact location. And that actually worked remarkably well. I made a super thick forest by accident, but each tree is a bona fide instance of our tree game object, and we can chop it down and collect the logs. We want to be able to craft with the logs later on, so let's start putting together a model of a spike barricade. I'll start by stretching the cylinder and adding some short branches to make it look like it just came from a tree. We'll then add a big old spike at one end. At first I thought I'd paint it to look like a birch spike, but then decided to texture it with a birch bark texture. Now that we've got one spike, we can duplicate it to create a spike barricade. I've imported 2 versions into Unity, one where the spikes are all connected and one where the spikes are individual objects. This will come in handy later when we want the barricade to collapse. We'll give the barricade some health and have it deal damage on contact with zombies, but we'll also have the barricade's health reduce as well, so eventually it'll collapse. When the barricade's health drops to 0, it gets replaced by separated spikes and collapses. So let's try it out. The zombie's taking double damage for some reason, but the barricade is doing the job properly, so that's cool. If now we spawn a bunch of zombies, we see the barricade eventually collapses. Finally, we want to be able to place the barricades where we want them. So to do that, I'll generate a transparent version of the barricade that floats in front of our player, and then instantiate a solid version when I press a certain key. Alright, looks great. That's all for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe. If you want to support my work, I now have a Patreon link in the description, and I'll see you next time.